The digital station for comedy, drama and entertainment. BBC Radio 4 Extra.
You're listening to Raw Meat Radio. I'm Mary-Ann Hobbs. This is a Chris Morris special, so as the evening progresses, please expect to hear some very strong, repeated language. Chris Morris continued to explore the art of surreal storytelling in his brief but legendary partnership with Peter Cook in the Radio 3 series, Why Bother? Here he interviewed Peter Cook as the character Sir Arthur Streeb Greebling a year before he died. Lucian Randall again.
What was interesting was, first of all, that although he was the junior partner, again Chris Morris was utterly fearless, and again he didn't try to make a name for himself by upstaging Peter Cook. He just tried to keep him on the straight and narrow. So trying to stop Peter Cook from deviating or from digressing. You know, I can't think of many people who could do that, and he did that. He did that. So in a sense, although it wasn't upstaging, he did that by remorselessly referring to Peter Cook's, Sir Arthur's obvious frailty. So there was one occasion where he'd fallen at home, and his arm had kind of really come up quite badly, and with his own vague kind of science background, I think Chris Morris knew he didn't need to have that to know that there was something seriously wrong with him, and he just referred to it, said to Arthur, you're shortly about to die, and just saying that was quite funny. But if you think about Peter Cook's own history, not a man who would shy away from pointing out the weaknesses and frailties of other, or indeed sort of getting the better of a comedy partner, and you can hear him taking a step back and then really engaging with Chris, and they would just kind of joust together. And what with kind of hindsight, I think that's one of the best examples of Chris Morris's radio work, because it's just or both of them really, because it's just these two fantastic minds jousting away on an even level.
And here's a taste. Episode 4 of Why Bother? Prisoner of War.
Well, I'll just introduce the reason you're here, Sir Arthur.
Yes, so just one thing. Would it be all right if Gavin came in and did my hair? He's a very nice young man from Camden Town. He started his own particular salon. In case I didn't have time to have it done afterwards.
Well, no is what I think we have.
Yes,
to
he's in now, and you might as well let him stand there.
If you could just ask him to leave, because it will.
I'll ask him to leave once we finish the interview. Yes,
or before would be better.
Well, that's rather tricky, isn't it? Because he's begun to go into the pre-snipping ritual, which is he begins to limber up his
So
hands,
I have to be sort of clear. It will actually be very
going.
disruptive. It's really not done.
Well, Gavin. Yes, I'm sorry I misled you. Yes, now I'll go on the bus and I'll get a receipt.
Good. Now, Sir Arthur Streeb Greebling, it's 50 years since you returned from Japan and your experience as a prisoner of war.
Yes, 50 years to the day.
You've seldom talked about this, but you've agreed to discuss it this evening. How were you captured?
Well, I was in charge of a small unit of men, most of whom, alas, perished. Seeing that there was nothing I could do to save them, since they were already dead, entered into what is called a concentration camp under Japanese command, and was there throughout the war period.
Now, this is when you were the senior British officer in a prisoner of war camp which was building a railway line.
That's right. And I think anyone travelling on that line today will recognise the merits of the technology involved, because it's awfully difficult in that heat, carving through forests and deserts, mountains and valleys, to get a line going dead straight from Tokyo to the destination, which at that time was unknown.
You talk with some feeling about the work that was involved in building this railway. You talk less about the fact that you didn't waste a single calorie of energy in making it yourself. You had nothing to do with the hard work.
I don't quite understand the question.
Well, you talk about the difficulties of building this railway, the suffering that the men went through.
I told you, it
but
was
you
very, very
personally,
difficult because there was nothing there. We had to import steel from Great Britain and the United States. Walt Disney, I believe, provided the last links.
But you say we had to do it.
As you know full well, the seas were filled with enemy submarines, and just to get the steel and the iron there, that was work enough.
But you keep saying we had to do this. Isn't that a dishonest use of the word when you were perched on a mattress watching your men sweat their guts out?
Well, as part of the arrangement, I was given accommodation slightly better than the other personnel, but not as good, I may say, as my boss, for want of a better word, General Nihao.
You did get on rather well with your Japanese captors, didn't you?
Everybody is human, including my, your words, Japanese captors. I worked in the best interests of the British personnel under my command, and I attempted to organise an escape.
Yes, and then you told the Commandant 24 hours before it was put into operation.
I informed my superior, but I'd already told my men to do it the day after so they wouldn't get caught.
And yet they all did get caught.
They got caught, well, they went on the wrong day.
Many of them had been driven insane by the work they were doing, and those that could testify claimed that you had helped in that mental decaying process.
I never physically beat anybody, and
but we all know it's perfectly easy.
You can see film footage showing me not beating anybody. You can see film
4.5 seconds of film.
You can see film footage of me sitting in my office trying to get the air conditioning working.
And 4.5 seconds of film proves that you didn't hit them. For the rest.
Why would I hit my own men unless they were shirking?
Well, let's leave that aside.
Leave that aside, please.
I put it to you that it's perfectly possible to drive a man out of his mind simply by using words and mental torture.
Well, the fact that I may have said to a subaltern, I may have said, get a move on. If that is mental cruelty, well, I'm a Dutchman.
Is it or is it not mental cruelty to appear to that man as his wife in the middle of the night?
I would call that a kindness in the conditions we were living in. Any man who got anybody coming to his cell posing as a man, woman or lizard was welcome, because...
And then withhold favours?
I did, yes.
What I'm saying is that you persecuted this man until he went out of his mind, and he wasn't the only one.
I played hard to get. And I may have talked about marriage, but I mean, yes, you know, we were both drunk. Well, at least I was drunk, because that sake is remarkably powerful, isn't it?
And your men didn't even have enough water.
Well, nor did I.
Well, you had something to drink.
I had sake, and sake alone, because the water supplies, this is one of the things, I still correspond with General Nihao. We have a long-standing joke about incredibly efficient the Japanese may be, but in a prisoner of war camp, can you get a cold drink? And the answer, I'm afraid, was no. But that's neither here nor there.
You needed severe coaxing to leave that camp.
Well, I had acquired a leasehold interest in the property, which covered 212 acres of prime land, rather too close to Hiroshima for my liking, but very verdant, and with the opportunity to put in a hotel, leisure facilities. But negotiations broke down.
And it was only that made you return to this country?
That and the ticket.
Sir Arthur, sorry, I have to draw attention to something which people won't be able to see. You have, during the past 15 minutes, been agitating so firmly at the sleeve of your jacket that it's now come off. Now, you're good at disguising it with the tone of your voice, but I read your body language as something akin to, I'm telling lies.
Well, it's a very old coat. I must say, you have rather hit me below the belt there, because I had no idea that you were going to raise the subject of this herringbone being torn off.
Well, I must say I wouldn't have, unless you had done it.
Does the sight of the flesh excite you? Or
I can think of more attractive features on you.
Well, these speckles on my arm.
That's Candida, though, isn't it?
Candida?
Isn't it an infection?
I don't think it's an infection. It just spreads like wildfire. Once it starts up round about the shoulder, and then gradually it sort of speckles down towards the wrist, and then it runs out. I dare say it will start on my hands very soon, and then run out at the nails.
Well, don't get me wrong, I didn't wish to be physically insulting, and there are certain aspects of your appearance which many... I mean,
it's
no secret.
It's nerves. I'm not used to being in a room with a man.
You see, that's my lie detector test, really. When a man pulls the sleeve off his jacket,
he's fibbing.
Yeah.
Yes, I've thought you would think that. Yes.
Will you just grant us the answer to one question with an honest, straightforward answer?
Yes. Well, it depends what the question is.
Well, in many interviews...
Yes, indeed. Thank you very much.
In many interviews, the question that perhaps would extract the most valuable answer is the one which is never asked.
Yes, well, you haven't asked that one yet, so I've really not been in a position to answer it.
Right, well, here we go. Obviously, I can't ask the question which has never been asked, otherwise it, by definition, stops
asked.
being...
Yes, yeah.
But you know that question. If you could keep it in your mind and give me the answer, then we would get some value... No.
The answer is no.
And what do you mean by that?
No is what I mean by that.
Has the answer for you ever been anything other than no?
No. Then the answer has always been no.
So if I were to say to you, has the answer always been no?
I would say, hold on a minute.
Chris Morris and Peter Cook in Why Bother, made by Talkback Productions.